Okay, we're going to get started. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go around. I want everyone to stand up. I want you to give us your name and tell us about your life. Okay. We don't have time for that. I wouldn't remember your names anyway, and I don't care. No, I'm just kidding. All right, you are here for the youth track. If you are actually 22 years or older, we're going to have to ask you to leave. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, you feel free to. No, seriously, stay. No, glad you're here. Were you here? Have you been here all morning so far?
Nope.
Oh, you just came for the youth track.
Yeah.
Nice. How many of you just came for the youth track? Okay, and how many of you have been here all day so far? Okay, one godly person. Okay, all right. That's cool. Good. Rough group to work with here, but we'll make it work. All right. I want to start off with a confession. You can get to know me a little bit. I actually struggle with an addiction. I've been struggling with this addiction for probably 6-7 years now. But I have an addiction to ice cream.
Wait
a second. Are there other raise your hand if you're a fellow addict. Okay, you're in a safe place, brothers and sisters. I embrace you. Seriously, if you come to my house any day of the week, walk in through my front door, walk through my living room, walk into my kitchen.
Is that an invitation?
If you're an addict, yes. Walk into my kitchen and look at my refrigerator. I got a picture of my refrigerator here. There's my refrigerator. Look into my refrigerator any day of the week. You will find anywhere from 6 to 8 different kinds of ice cream.
Is this going to be like an AA for ice cream?
I think that's what it's going to turn into. My wife and I, this is how sick I am. Okay, my wife and I have this agreement. She does like all the grocery shopping, which is a good thing. But I told her, honey, as the man of the house, I buy the ice cream. And so I go to the store just to buy ice cream. And I don't know what your grocery stores are like here, but in Southern California, where I'm from, we've got these big refrigerated sections with these kind of glass, doors. And so I know when I'm getting closer to the ice cream section. Because the lights in that section get brighter. And here's what I hear: angelic voices singing, Alleluia, Alleluia. And so I go and I stand in front of the ice cream for 2 or 3 hours and just soak it in, and soak it in. But there is a particular kind of ice cream that I lock in on. It's my favorite, absolute favorite kind of ice cream. It's where they take vanilla ice cream, they smash up some kind of candy bar, and they mix it together, right? Reese's peanut butter cup ice cream. Yes. And God has been so good to us. He's provided it in so many different forms. Would you just meditate with me on the screen and let's just give thanks to God. I mean, talk about an argument for God's existence right here. Reese's peanut butter cup ice cream. How much goodness can you pack into the universe? I mean, come on. So I think that's it. Let's close in prayer. I think that's all we need to say. God exists. Christianity is true. That's it. All right. All right, here's what I want to do. You're like, why are we talking about this? Okay, here's what I really want to do. I want to talk a little bit about my favorite kind of ice cream to help you make some very important distinctions when it comes to truth. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make 2 claims about Reese's peanut butter cup ice cream. And then we're going to kind of unpack it and see if we can't understand truth a little bit better, okay? So, explore these claims with me. Here's the first claim. Reese's peanut butter cup ice cream is delicious. Now, how many of you out there, by show of hands, would say that statement is true? Raise your hand. Okay. Yeah, all the people that love Jesus. Wait a second. Wait a second. Raise your hand again if you think the statement's true. Okay. All right. Put your hands down because I'm noticing something. Not everyone was raising their hand. So, let me ask you this. If you think the statement's false, go ahead, be honest with me. Raise your hand if you think the statement's false. Okay. Yeah, we have Bibles for you people. We have Bibles that you can get. No, okay, now think about it. Is this kind of an odd state of affairs? We have a statement that is both true and false at the same time. That seems to be a little odd. Okay. Who said they thought Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, or they didn't think the statement was true? Who thought this was false? Okay. You thought it was false? You didn't raise your hand earlier.
Yeah, I did.
You did? Okay. All right, what's your name?
Jacob.
Jacob? All right, Jacob. Yeah. Okay. Let's say you and Jacob, let's say you and I were in a conversation, all right? We're out in the hallway, and Jacob and I are in a conversation, and I'm like, yeah, I love Reese's Peanut Butter Cup ice cream. And Jacob looks at me, and he goes, that stuff's sick. It's disgusting. Now, what would be the appropriate response from me to him? Punch him in the nose? If I look at Jacob and said, dude, are you struggling with sin? Is that what's going on there? Would that be appropriate? Or if I looked at him and I said, you know what, Jacob, you are going to hell. Would that be an appropriate response? No, okay, sickos. No. You'd be like, Jacob would be, and appropriately so, he'd be like, what are you talking about? Aren't we talking about ice cream? Like, that is not the appropriate response. Okay? But, okay, so we got this weird thing, this statement that's both true and false at the same time. Let me make another statement. Okay, let's explore this one a little bit. What if I said that Reese's Peanut Butter Cup ice cream is a medicine that helps control diabetes? How many of you think that statement's true? Raise your hand. Yeah. If you raise your hand, I know that you are not a diabetic. How many of you think that statement's false? Raise your hand. Okay. Now, put your hands down. How many of you are medical doctors? Anybody? Yeah, liar. I didn't say compulsive liar. I said medical doctor. Now, but notice, you think you have enough knowledge to be able to say that statement's false. Now, let's say your diabetic friend says, you know what, I'm going to eat a lot of Reese's Peanut Butter Cup ice cream to see if that helps control my diabetes. Would it be appropriate to look at him and say, no, you're wrong. Don't do that. And try to convince them that they're wrong about that. Yeah, that seems to be appropriate. And to just look at them in the face and say, no, you're wrong. And really, if I care about you and I want you to be healthy, I'm going to really do my very best to persuade you that that's wrong, that's false. Whereas if you don't like my favorite flavor of ice cream, I might say, hey, well, try it. But I'm not going to tell you you're wrong because you don't like my kind of ice cream. All right? So notice, very, very different kind of claims here. And actually, what we have are two kinds of truth claims here. When I say Reese's Peanut Butter Cup ice cream is delicious, that's a certain kind of claim. When I make the second claim, it's a different kind of claim. Now, what is the medicine that helps control diabetes?
Insulin.
Insulin, right? A diabetic doesn't inject ice cream. They inject insulin. That helps control diabetes. Okay? Now, when I say Reese's Peanut Butter Cup ice cream is delicious, that is what we call a subjective truth. What is a subjective truth? It's a statement that is true for the, notice the word, subject. True for the subject or true for the person speaking. So when I say Reese's Peanut Butter Cup ice cream is delicious, that's true for me, for Brett Kunkle, the subject. It's true for me, but it may not be true for you, right? These are things that we would say they're subjectively true. True for me, but not for you. Subjective truths we wouldn't say that they're universally true. Okay, these kind of truths can change from person to person, from time to time. So maybe I eat so much Reese's Peanut Butter Cup ice cream in the next month that I get sick of it and I think it's disgusting. Subjective truths can change, you see. So think of, when you think of subjective truth, think of ice cream. Think about preferences. That's a key word here. Subjective truths are personal preferences that we have. All right? Now, when I say insulin is a medicine that helps control diabetes, that's a different kind of claim. It's not subjectively true. It's what we call objectively true. And objective truth is something that's true for the thing itself, true for the object. Okay? The object outside of me, the subject. Objective truths are things that we might say are universal. Here's a great definition of objective truth. It's true whether anyone believes it or not. Objective truths are true whether you believe them or not. So if you go to your doctor and he diagnoses you with diabetes and he says, here, you need to start taking insulin regularly, this is going to help control it, and you say, no, I think ice cream will help, and you go eat a bunch of ice cream, you believing that ice cream is going to help you does not change the facts. The insulin works whether you believe it or not, you see. And so these are things that are true whether anyone believes them or not. Think of medicine. When it comes to medicine, you don't choose what you like, you choose what heals, what's true, period. When you choose ice cream, you choose what's true for you. Okay? Makes sense? You understand the distinction? Okay, are you sure? Because I'm about to give you a test. Because I know as students you love tests. Okay? So here we go. I'm going to put up a statement on the screen, and I want you to simply identify if the statement is an example of an objective truth or a subjective truth. Is this insulin or ice cream? Okay? All right, so here's the first statement. If I said, that guy's shirt is red.
Objective.
Yeah. Okay, insulin, objective, same thing. It would be an objective claim. The guy's shirt is red, whether I believe it or not, it's true, period. It's a claim about the object, the shirt. Okay. Now, it could be objectively true or it could be objectively false. But the claim itself is objective. All right, what if I said, red is the best color?
Ice cream.
Yeah, ice cream, subjective. That's a preference, but we wouldn't want to say that that's objectively true. It's a personal preference. Number 3, 2 + 2 = 4.
Objective.
It's an objective claim. It's objective. Number 4, tropical island vacations are the best kinds.
Subjective.
Subjective. That'd be a personal preference. Maybe someone likes to go to the mountains, or their favorite vacation is to the desert, whatever it might be. Number 5, Brett can bench press 350 pounds. But,
Subjective.
dude, what are you laughing for?
Subjective. He was laughing for
Did you say false? Was that you who said false?
No,
No, I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you. But the laughter did offend me. Now, okay, let's just set aside whether it's true or false. Is the claim an objective claim or a subjective claim? It's an objective claim, right? We're making a claim not about my personal preference, but an objective reality. So I can now, here's a way to think about it. Objective claims are either true or false. Subjective claims are neither true or false until they're attached to some subject. So when I say red is the best color, well, that's neither true or false until you know what subject is making the claim. Okay? But when I say Brett can bench press 350 pounds, you don't need to know anything about who's making the claim. That's a claim about an objective state of affairs. And so the claim is either true or false. Now notice, there's a difference between the claim and being able to prove the claim, right? The claim is either true or false whether or not you can prove it or disprove it. Does that make sense? That's a very important distinction. Because when it comes to claims like God's existence, is God's existence based upon our ability to prove it? Not necessarily. God still exists whether you can prove him or not. So when I say Brett can bench 350 pounds, that is either true or false. Now, if you wanted proof, we might go down to the to the gym, put 350 pounds on the bench press, and boom, I'll show you what's up. I'll show you it's false. Okay. I will demonstrate that the claim is objectively false. Okay, but here's the key point. It's an objective claim. All right. What if I said atoms consist of protons, neutrons, and electrons? It'd be an objective claim. Okay. How about this one? What if I said God exists? Subjective? Objective? Subjective? What? It's both? Okay.
It's objective.
Objective? Did you just switch?
No, I said objective.
Oh, okay. So we have some disagreement here. Some are saying objective, some are saying subjective. Some of you are just sitting there quietly. How many of you are I don't know? Okay, that's cool. That's all right.
True, whether you could prove it or not.
But, okay, let me play devil's advocate here. That isn't the belief that God exists. I mean, that's true for you Christians because you believe it. But if I'm an atheist, it's not true for me because I don't believe in God. So isn't it subjective? Well, that's just what you believe. That's just your truth. Right? Why not? Okay. Okay.
If you're atheist, then you believe that God exists. Therefore, you believe that objectively testing is wrong.
Okay. All right. Now, why? I'm just push you a little bit further. Why would you say? Because you said I believe that God doesn't exist, but why is that an objective claim?
Because they're true.
But now it seems like you're subjectivizing it because you say it's true to you or false to you. If you say it's true to me or false to me, aren't you saying therefore it's subjective? It's based upon what I think. See? Now, okay. Now let me put up another claim. Let's think through another claim. What if I said to you this? Jesus is the only way to God, and the Jews are wrong about him. They are wrong about his identity. Objective or subjective? Objective, objective. Objective. Okay, let's way to ruin the statement. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. What's your name?
Caitlin.
Caitlin? Okay, let's clarify for Caitlin. Jesus is the only way to God, and Orthodox Jews are wrong about him. Non-Messianic Orthodox Jews. Is that good? No. Okay, so we clarified there. Is that statement objective or subjective?
Objective.
Objective?
Because it carries its own subject. Like,
what do you mean it carries its own subject?
If it's not subjective, like subjective means it has to be attached to a subject. And like objective means it has its own it like starts its own subject in the center.
Okay, now you're close. You're making the distinction. Subjective truths they're grounded in the preferences of a subject. Objective truth, remember, it's true for the object or the thing itself. So go back to that definition. That'll help here. Let me go to number 9. What if I said premarital sex is wrong? Is that objective or subjective?
Objective.
How can you say that's objective?
Because it's in the Bible.
Because in the Bible, that you believe in the Bible, but atheists don't believe in the Bible. Okay. All right. Okay, I might agree with you, but that might not be the best tact to take with the atheist. You're wrong, period. End of story. I win. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, statement, premarital sex is wrong, which is objective. But the statement, I believe premarital sex is wrong, is subjective.
Okay. Okay. All right, but so the claim itself, okay, yeah, now there are certainly subjects who believe things. The question is are they believing something that's objectively true or subjectively true? Or objectively false or subjectively false? So is this an objective truth? How many of you are like, I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay. Good. That's okay. It's okay to be confused. All right. And what if I said this? It is wrong for women to have elective abortions. And their life is not in danger. It's out of some particular reason. Maybe can't afford another child or something like that. Is that objective or subjective? Objective. Why is that objective?
Because you're killing someone.
Okay. Okay. I see the wheel spinning, I think, for most of you. Okay, that's good. I want you to be thinking. I want you to wrestle with this. Now, let me give you my view on this, and then we're gonna unpack this a little bit for the rest of our time. I think number 7, 8, 9, and 10 are objective claims. Okay, I think they're objectively true. Now, but note, I want you to notice what happened. We went 1 through 6, no problem, right? There's kind of consensus. They seem to be pretty easy. We got it, subjective, objective. But notice, we got to 7, 8, 9, and 10, and there was no longer consensus. There seemed to be a lot more confusion. Right? Now, what happened? Well, we switched subjects when we moved from 1 to 6 to 7, 8, 9, and 10. What kinds of claims, what subject did we move to when we got to 7 and 8? Spiritual or religious claims, right? Those are religious claims. So notice, something goes off in your mind when it comes to religious claims. What kind of claims are 9 and 10? Moral claims. And there was confusion there too. And see, you and I live in a culture that gives us ideas. Over time, you just soak up the ideas. You're kind of like a sponge. And the environment you're in will give you ideas. And if you're not careful, you will simply absorb the ideas of the culture that you live in. And I think that's what's gone on here. And this is basically this test that I just gave. The response is pretty much universally the same when I talk to students around the country. It doesn't matter if you're in Alabama or Southern California. Most of us think that when it comes to religion and morality, these things are subjective claims. There's like this switch that gets flipped in our minds. And this has a huge impact on our views about things. So let me just share with you some of the consequences of this view that truth is subjective when it comes to religion and morality. This idea that truth is subjective is what we call relativism. It's the idea that truths are relative or subjective, right? So they're based on my personal preference. It's relative. Truth is relative to the individual. Does that make sense to you? Okay? So it's based upon your preferences. This book here, Soul Searching, is a major study done on you, the American teenager. And this is what the summary after this major study that these researchers did for 4 years, a very in-depth study. I talked to some of the sociologists who are involved with this. Very in-depth study. And what they found is this: American youth, like American adults, are nearly without exception profoundly individualistic. The typical bywords are, who am I to judge? If that's what they choose, whatever. Each person decides for himself, and if it works for them, fine. Some teenagers champion this skeptic's view of individual relativistic truth with great relish. Some version of this individualistic subjectivism and relativism is the dominant, assumed viewpoint about religion amongst most contemporary U.S. adolescents. So what they're saying is, you and I have just bought this. It's the assumed viewpoint, the dominant assumed viewpoint. It's not like you spent your life thinking carefully about objective and subjective truth. But how did you come to your views in answering those questions? Well, you just absorbed the bad ideas of the culture. And listen, make no mistake, students, ideas have consequences. Let me lay out 4 consequences for these ideas, relativistic ideas about truth, subjectivistic ideas about truth. These ideas have consequences. Number 1, relativism, subjectivism diminishes sin. It diminishes sin. Listen to what C.S. Lewis says. He says, it is after you have realized that there is a moral law and a power behind that law. So he's saying, basically, it's once you realize that there is an objective moral law. There's this moral law that's true whether you believe it in or not. And a power behind that law, and that you have broken the law and put yourself wrong with that power. It is after this, and not a moment sooner, that Christianity begins to talk. So he's saying, look, for Christianity to even make sense, it assumes that there are objective moral truths. Right? Someone define for me what is sin. What is sin?
Anything that God tells you not to do.
Okay. Anything that God tells you not to do, if you do it and God tells you not to do it. Any other definitions?
Not doing what God tells you to do.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and maybe here's a very simple definition of sin that goes along with that. Sin is the breaking of God's moral law. Right? Sin is the breaking of God's moral law. But if you don't think that there are any moral laws, then what does that do to the idea of sin?
Fills it.
Yeah. Sin disappears, right? There's no such thing. If there is no moral law or moral standard, is there any such thing as sin? No. Sin doesn't make sense unless there's some objective moral law. Because sin is the breaking of God's objective moral law. But see, you and I live in a culture that tells us there's no such thing as sin. There's no objective moral law out there. It's all in here. You decide for yourself. And if right and wrong is a matter of what you decide for yourself, sin disappears. There's no sin because you're the one who decides. And everyone can decide for themselves. At least that's what our culture tells us, you see. And so then sin disappears. And so then you see, that gives you and I permission. If we buy this idea, this gives us permission to kind of do what we want. We can rationalize our sin very easily, can't we? In a culture where people say, there's no God, who determines right and wrong? Me. I do what I want. Right? And so this is really important. It also erodes our mission. Think about it. What is the gospel? What does the word gospel mean?
Good news.
Good news, right? Gospel means good news. Well, okay, what is this good news in a nutshell?
That you can have freedom from your sin.
that you can have freedom from your sin. Notice, the gospel entails this idea of sin. The good news, now, the good news is preceded by bad news. The bad news is that we are sinners who have broken God's moral law, and there is appropriate punishment. That's the bad news, whether you believe it or not. We are lawbreakers. And the appropriate punishment for lawbreakers is separation from this good, holy God who has given us these moral laws. We are not fit to be in His sight. The good news is that that same God is not only a just God, but He's merciful. And He has offered us a pardon for those sins. He's rescued us for those sins. You see, that's the good news of the gospel. But notice, the good news only makes sense in light of this bad news, right? But the bad news assumes a moral law. Now, think about our mission. Our mission is to go share this good news. But what if the good news just happens to be subjectively true? It's just true for us because we believe it. Then what we're saying, if it's merely a preference, we're saying it's just like your favorite flavor of ice cream. Except when it comes to religions, you walk in and you've got all these different flavors of religion. And you don't choose what's true if it's subjective. You choose what you like, right? You choose what you like. And so if that's the case, are you going to spend a lot of time trying to convince other people that their favorite flavor of ice cream is wrong? Right? How many of you would go into an ice cream store and, I'm sitting there and I'm going to order Reese's Peanut Butter Cup ice cream, right? But I see a guy down the way and I hear him order chocolate brownie or something. Am I going to walk over there and go, hey, sir, not to be rude or anything, but I noticed you ordered chocolate brownie. That's the wrong flavor. Come here. Let me introduce you to the one true flavor, right? Now, are you going to do that? Of course not, because it's merely a preference. But think about it. If we think in terms of our faith in Christ as a preference, you see how that's going to undermine your motivation to go share with people? You're not going to try and convince someone. I would never do that in an ice cream parlor. They'd laugh at me. I'm not going to stand outside the ice cream parlor with a tract that says Jesus is the one, or Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is the one true flavor. I'm not going to do that. And so you notice how relativism undermines our proclamation of the gospel, sharing the good news of being on mission for Jesus. I think that may be a big reason why many, many young people, if not the majority of Christian young people, have never shared Christ with anybody. Because they're so relativistic. Now, I'm not going to embarrass you, but I just want you to think, how often do you talk to people about Christ? If it's a subjective preference, why go through the hassle? Why make yourself uncomfortable? But if it's objectively true, you see how that changes everything. If it's medicine, if Jesus is a medicine for the cure, for the sickness that they have, and they're going to die with that sickness, that changes things, doesn't it? Yeah. Relativism undermines justice. A lot of young people today are passionate about justice, about issues like sex trafficking and poverty and these kinds of things. These are important issues that we need to be involved with. But look, if there is no objective truths, if there are no objective moral truths, then justice doesn't make sense. Right? Because justice assumes a moral framework. Justice assumes that sex trafficking is wrong, that the exploitation of young women and children is wrong. But to say that that's wrong assumes a moral standard. It assumes that those people ought to be treated a different kind of way, in the right way or a good way. And so if you're relativistic, justice doesn't make sense. You see? And so relativism undermines justice. And consequence number 4, relativism makes your religious views irrelevant to most of your life. How does this work? Well, remember, our culture puts your religious views and your moral views in the category of ice cream or preference. These aren't objectively true. They're merely personal preferences that you and I have. So let me give you an analogy to help you think about this. Think of a two-story house, okay? And the two-story house represents the way that people in our culture categorize things. Okay, so here's what they do. You've got this bottom floor that represents the objective floor, and you have this upper floor which represents the subjective floor. Sometimes we call this the fact-value split, or the secular-sacred split. Okay? So the bottom floor are those things in life that deal with facts or knowledge. The upper floor deals with personal preferences. So what kinds of things would go in the objective floor? Well, things like science. Right? Science gives us supposedly knowledge. And so when we're dealing with science, biology, chemistry, physics, this kind of thing, that gives us knowledge. You know, you go to the university to gain knowledge for a particular field of study. And that's in the bottom floor. But what kind of things go in the subjective floor of life? Well, things like family traditions, right? Everyone's got different family traditions. No one's going to say, well, there are family traditions that are objectively right and wrong. I mean, at Christmas, think. Everyone in here has got different family traditions at Christmas. Some put up trees, some decorate in a certain way, some put lights on their houses, these kinds of things. Family traditions, but you don't go off to college to study family traditions. Because it's not what we would say an area that there is knowledge to be had. And so we put that in the subjective realm. Now think about it. Where does our culture put religion and morality? It pushes it up into the subjective realm. So you believe in Jesus? Okay, that's nice, that's good for you. But keep that up here, you see. That's subjective. So you want to go to church on Sunday? You want to at your house do a private personal devotion? That's fine. But don't try to do prayer in school. Don't try to do a Bible study in school. Don't wear that shirt or that cross at school or at your job or that kind of thing. Because when you get into those areas, you're in this floor. Keep these two floors separate. Does that make sense? That's how our culture thinks. And so what happens is that God gets pushed to the background of life. That's what the researchers found in soul searching. They said that for most young people, their religious views are mostly situated in the background of everyday living. Now think about it. If you've got this subjective floor and this objective floor, and you go to school Monday through Friday, right? Monday through Friday you go to school, and that you're supposed to stay in the objective floor. Well, where does God stay? He stays up there in your personal private prayer closet. And when you're studying, name some of the subjects that you're studying in school right now. Economy. Biology. Chemistry. History. Anatomy. Okay? Algebra. Whatever it might be. All these subjects. Here's what happens, and I would guess that many of you probably live this way. Those floors are cut off from each other, and most of you have no idea how God relates to any of those areas of study. Because when you go study economy or biology or anatomy, God's been cut off. You've put him away, and then you go do your stuff, your economic studies. But is there a Christian view of economics? Does God have anything to do with economics? Most of us don't think so. So where does God go? He gets in the background of life. So he's there back at home, or he's back in my church, but when I'm at school Monday through Friday, or if I'm at my job or whatever, God is not relevant. And most of us live a lot of our lives like God is completely irrelevant, you see. And so then if our culture wants to delegitimize Christianity, what do? They don't have to even argue against your faith. All they have to do is say, it's subjective. It's subjective. It's religion. Put it up in that upper floor. This is the actor Christopher Reeve. His famous role back in the, 80s? Superman, right? He was the first Superman. He was involved in a kind of tragic horse riding accident, was paralyzed. And so he became a big proponent of embryo stem cell research, right? Taking embryos and harvesting them and trying to do research to kind of, see if we can't come up with cures for things like this. And this is what he says. He's in front of a student group at Yale University. Notice what he says. He says, when matters of public policy are debated, no religions should have a seat at the table. What did he just do there? He said he just made religion illegitimate in this discussion, right? He's separating. What's he doing? He's saying religion belongs in the upper floor. It's not relevant to discussions about public policy or law. That's religion. That's personal and private. Put it up there while the rest of us talk about really important things like law. Now, did he say that Christianity is false? No. But he made it illegitimate by pushing it up in that upper story. It made it irrelevant to a very important discussion our culture's having. Make sense? How many of you, anyone see the vice presidential debate between Joe Biden and Paul Ryan? Anyone see that? Okay, Joe Biden, he does this very thing. I want to show you a clip. Listen to what he says about religion and religion's role in his life.
This debate is indeed historic. We have two Catholic candidates. There's something the stage shift is this. And I would like to ask you both to tell me what role your religion has played in your own personal views on abortion. Please talk about how you came to that experience. Talk about how you
my religion defines who I am. I've been a practicing Catholic my whole life. And it is particularly informed my social doctrine. Catholic social doctrine talks about taking care of those who can't take care of themselves, people who need help. With regard to abortion, I accept my church's position on abortion as called a freeing doctrine. Life begins with conception. That's the church's judgment. I accept it in my personal life. But I refuse to impose it on people without Christians and multiple views. I just refuse to impose that on others, unlike my friends here in Congress. I do not believe that we have the right to tell other people that women they can't control their body. The decision between them and their doctor. My view of the Supreme Court, I'm not going to interfere with that.
Okay. This is a great example of pushing your religious views up into the upper story. Right? Now, there's a lot of inconsistency here. I mean, the very first thing he says is, my religion defines me. Okay. Maybe that's the case. But think about what's going on. Well, what's that mean for your religion to define you? And then for you to then make the claim, well, on this really important issue that my church speaks about, and religion defines me, that, well, I can't tell anyone else that this is right or wrong, right? Why? Because it seems implied here that it's my religious view. My church tells me that, but I can't take my religious view and impose it on other people who don't have my religious views, like atheists or Muslims or whoever. I got to keep that in the upper story. Now, notice, he didn't have to give an argument against the view. He just had to push it to the upper story. That's religion. It goes up here. And you see how Christianity gets cut off from an important issue like this. And then it seems to be illegitimate. And for many Christians don't think that our Christianity has anything important to say about a very important issue like abortion or these other important issues that come up. Because morality, that's personal preference. So do you see how ideas have consequences? All this relativism really undermines our Christianity. Okay, so I'm gonna skip a little section here, but I want to help equip you to deal with this claim that you're going to get. That's just your truth, and I'm going to reconnect it back to that distinction that we made between subjective and objective truth. Okay, so when people make this claim that that's just your truth, they're trying to relativize your claim or subjectivize it. Right? That's your truth. That's true for you. That's subjective. Now, when they say this, when they make this claim, I want you to kind of give them an illustration to help them understand that your claim is not a subjective claim. So you're going to ask them, what does my dad look like? Okay? All right, now follow me here. What does my dad look like? How would you answer that? In fact, let me get two volunteers here. A volunteer to take a guess at what you think my dad looks like. Okay? Come on. Some brave volunteer right here. What's your name?
Caleb.
Caleb. Okay, Caleb. Tell me, I'll ask you some specific questions. What does my dad look like? What color hair does he have?
None. He's bald.
Okay, all right. He's got no hair. He's bald, all right. How tall do you think my dad is?
5'11".
5'11". Okay, I like you. And Caleb, how much do you think my dad weighs? Be careful.
375.
375. Okay, jerk. All right, so 375. My dad is bald. He's 5'11", and he's 375 pounds. Okay. All right, let me get another volunteer, maybe someone a little more intelligent. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. All right. So someone else. Let me get a girl volunteer here.
Right here.
Come on. Someone help me out here. Brave. Okay, right here. All right. So what's your name?
Valerie.
Valerie. Okay, Valerie. What color hair do you think my dad has?
Black hair.
Black hair. Okay. How tall do you think he is?
About 5'10".
5'10". Okay. And how much do you think he weighs?
About
250. Okay. So black hair, 5'10", 250. Okay. So Valerie's got her view. Caleb has his ridiculous view. All right. Now we got two different views, two different claims about my dad. Are these objective claims or are they subjective claims?
Objective.
Yeah, they're objective claims. But then, now notice, if Caleb gave me this, what he thought my dad looked like, and he said these things, and I said, oh, Caleb, that's your truth about my dad. And then Valerie shares her ideas, and I say, that's your truth about my dad. Is that an odd response to say that's your truth about my dad? That seems to be an odd response, doesn't it? I wouldn't say that they each have their own truth about my dad. They can't. Can my dad be 5'11" and 5'10" at the same time? No, those are contradictions. They can't be true at the same time. They can't have their own truth. Now, they are entitled to their own opinions, but they're not entitled to their own truth. What we would say is that they don't have their own truth about my dad. We would say they have their own opinion or their own belief, right? So Caleb's got his belief, Valerie's got her belief. The question is whether or not their belief is true. Because now remember, these are objective claims because they're about an object, my dad. So if we want to know whether or not these claims are objectively true or objectively false, what would we do? Yeah, I might put up a picture of my dad. So I'll put up a picture of my dad. Here's what my dad looks like. Ta-da.
I knew he had gray hair. 375.
This is my dad. He's got white hair. He's a jolly guy.
It used to be black.
What?
It used to be black.
It used to be black. No. It used to be brown. Yeah. Now, how many of you believe this is my dad?
I think it's Santa Claus.
The Santa at the mall.
The Santa at the mall? Actually, he is the Santa at the mall. My dad's a professional Santa. Look. See, there's my dad. Okay. Now look, every year my family and I've got 5 kids, we go take a picture with Santa. He's at the Carlsbad Mall down off the 78 in Southern California.
You have one interesting dad.
See? Look at it. Same Santa Claus.
Check that out.
Pretty cool, huh?
Awesome.
How many believe that's my dad?
Not me.
What?
Still don't pull it.
Anybody believe that's my dad?
Just to say he was 375, yes.
Just to say. Okay, so that was a no. Nobody believes that's my... Okay. Now notice something here. Let's pause. Now, the claim that this is my dad is an objective claim, right? It's either true or false. Now, even if I can't prove it to you, it still could be true, right? So notice there's a difference between a claim being true or false and whether or not we can prove it. Now, what I might do is I might need to give you further evidence. You're like, okay, that evidence is not enough, Brett, to convince me. So let me give you one more picture. There's my family. That's my wife and me. We went on a harbor cruise in San Diego about a year and a half ago with my mom and my dad. My dad, that is actually my biological father, Gary Kunkle. DNA test. No, I wasn't adopted, you jerk. What a punk. No, I'm just kidding. I understand the skepticism. Okay, so I put together a little math equation for you to help you understand how this works. If you take Santa Claus and you put him with a short Vietnamese woman, that equals me. That's how that works. Okay? That's the equation. If you have any further questions about the equation, talk to your mom and dad. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Okay? No, seriously, Gary Kunkle is my biological father. In 2003, he became a professional Santa, and that's been his career now for the last, 8, 9 years. And so now, are you believers yet?
Yeah.
Look at you skeptics. You guys must be atheists or something. All right, so, but notice, okay, why do we do that? Remember the claim, that's your truth. Well, we wouldn't say, when it comes to descriptions of my dad, we wouldn't say that's your truth about my dad. We say everybody's got their own belief, but we wouldn't say that's your truth because this is an objective claim. And so the claim, the belief is either true or false. So let me kind of cash out for you objective truth a little bit more and we'll kind of bring this home here. Okay? Philosophers talk about truth in terms of its correspondence with reality. Here's the idea. You have certain beliefs, okay? So Caleb, Valerie, they had beliefs about my dad. Those beliefs are true if they correspond to reality. Right? Does that make sense? Your beliefs, your claims are true if they match up with reality. Philosophers call it the correspondence theory of truth. I call it common sense. Right? Your beliefs are true if they match up with reality. Notice, we do this all the time. If I make certain claims, you know they're true if they match up with reality. If I tell you I surf in Southern California, that claim is true if indeed I surf in reality. If I tell you that Jonah is my 17-month-old son, that's true if Jonah is my 17-month-old son. Now, I would make the further claim that Jonah is the cutest 17-month-old in the history of America. And that claim would be objectively true, right? Thank you. These claims are true if they correspond to reality. Really basic. I mean, even when you walk into this room, you were looking for a correspondence. You were told that there was the youth track begins at 1 o'clock in this room. And so what did you do? You walked up to this room. And you took your belief and you checked to see if it matched up with reality. If the room wasn't set up, if the lights were out and there was no one here, you would know that the claim does not correspond to reality, so the claim would be objectively false. Notice now, duh! I mean, we do this all the time. Here's how the Greek philosopher Aristotle put it. Okay, brilliant statement. Listen to what he says. If you say that it is, and it is, or you say that it isn't, and it isn't, that's true. If you say that it isn't and it is, or you say that it is and it isn't, that's false. Thank God for philosophers, right? I mean, what? Now he was the first thinker to kind of lay out this common sense view. I know that this is the view that you hold. Why? Because you look both ways before you cross the street. Why do you do that? Because you believe in correspondence. You believe in objective reality. And so if you look both ways and you come to the belief that there is no Mack truck coming down the road, you're going to act on that belief, right? Remember, ideas have consequences. If that's your view, that's your idea, you're going to walk into the street. Now, let's say you glance again to your left and you realize your belief doesn't really match reality. You get hit by the Mack truck, right? That's going to change the way you look. That's going to kill you. So notice, that's an important belief to get right or wrong. Now, there are some beliefs, like if whether or not you were in the right room for today's youth track. That belief is not going to change your life, necessarily. But you not getting it right whether or not cars are coming down the road, that's going to hurt you. So sometimes reality can just pound you and hurt you and cause you lots of pain. And we all know because of the real world. In fact, there are all kinds of things that people do, immoral things that people do that hurt us. Right? So maybe a mom and a dad getting divorced. That reality, that moral reality causes lots of pain in us. Some of us have made really poor moral choices, and they're not just merely preferences. You make a poor moral choice, the idea that you lived out can have major consequences and can haunt you for the rest of your life. Because there's an objective moral reality out there, you see. And so this is what we mean. When we say they're objective moral truths, what we mean is that there is an objective reality out there, whether you believe it or not. So when we make our claims that God exists or that Christianity is true, we are saying it's objective because the claim is about objective reality. So when I say God exists, I'm not saying I simply believe in him. I'm saying there is a real being God who exists out there whether you and I believe in him or not. And that he exists whether you believe in him or not. That's my claim. When I say that Jesus Christ died on the cross for the sins of humanity and then 3 days later rose again to give us new life, that is a claim about objective reality. And my claim is that that's true whether you believe it or not. Now, it's possible that I'm wrong, but I have a whole lot of evidence to demonstrate that I think the claim is true. And so all I wanted to do here this afternoon is clarify for you. Because, notice, even in this room, in an apologetics conference, there's a lot of confusion about truth. And our claim as Christians is that there is objective, religious truth. Our claims about God, about the Scriptures, these are claims about objective reality. They're true whether you believe them or not. Our claims about God's moral law, these are true whether you believe them or not. And so, in one sense, this is a very serious discussion. Because your views about reality have an eternal impact on your life. It's not merely about just getting all the pleasure you can in this life and doing what you like, and what a shallow view of life. No, there's an objective reality. There's a real God who exists. You and I, in our fallen state, in our sinful state, we are enemies of that God. But thankfully, he loves us enough to rescue us. That's an objective truth. And you can have confidence that this stuff is true. That's why we have a conference like this, to help give you reasons now to believe that this stuff is true. Not just to believe it, but ultimately so that you can walk out of here and say, I know it's true. See, I don't just believe in God. I think I know that he's really there. I have good reasons to think that. And so our claim is that Christianity is true. If Christianity is not true, you're wasting your time here. That's what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15. If Jesus didn't rise from the dead, your faith is worthless. You should be pitied. But if Jesus did rise from the dead, if all of this stuff is true, it changes everything. And then you and I now should give our entire life to Jesus and orient our life around him and follow him with all that we are, if he really is who he claimed to be. And so at the very least, I want to encourage you to take these claims seriously. Jesus made all kinds of serious objective claims. They're either true or false. If they're true, it changes everything. All right, let me pray for you and then we'll take a little break. God, thank you for this opportunity to consider your truth. And my prayer is that you grab the hearts and minds of these young people here with your truth. Help them to find answers to their deepest questions so that they have confident faith in the truth of Jesus Christ. And then go into this world and share that truth with a lost and dying world. Amen.